Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar brought to you by Bursa Malaysia and managed by our company LifeChamp. Our webinar title today is ESG Investing Towards Sustainable Profits. My name is Shen Chu. I'm the moderator for this session. Now, we know that ESG has been a buzzword in the investing community because companies that do not adhere much to ESG guidelines may not be liked by all these institutional investors. So maintaining a good standard in ESG will be instrumental to help them to run the company in a sustainable and responsible way. At the same time, can also attract the institutional investors fund. So in this session, we're going to explore how do we do ESG investing in this space. Now, before we begin, as usual, disclaimer, whatever we share in this session is only for educational purpose. In no way that we give any recommendation for you to buy or sell any listed securities that we mentioned here. If you decide to make any investment decision, you are solely responsible for all your investment risk. Now, allow me to briefly introduce our speaker today. She's the co-founder of Global Hemisphere Group's Neighborhood. She also served as the Vice President of ESG Association of Malaysia. She's the fundraising chairperson for CSO SDG, and she's also columnist for Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia Northern Chapter regarding Green Initiative. She is also in the Penang Green Council working group committee towards Penang Green Agenda, specializing in green economy and governance and institutions. And she was also the speaker for SDG and Sustainability Framework in Malaysia SDG Summit, hosted by the Ministry of Finance and United Nations Malaysia, Brunei, and Singapore in 2019. And she's done none other than Miss Jolene. So Jolene, how are you today?
Hi everyone, looking forward for it. But Shen, I think there's some problem with the sharing screen because it's blank.
Is what?
It's blank.
It's
The screen is
blank.
not showing. Yeah. Is everyone still seeing the screen? Because I saw comments saying that the screen is blank.
Is it?
Hmm.
Are you seeing my screen?
I am, but not sure with the rest. Can some of us just give some
I think it
response if
should
you
be
see?
fine because
Yeah.
from my point of view, it works fine lah. All right, cool. So no worries. I will just stop sharing my screen and hand it over to you.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Yeah, I think now. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Now you can see the screen. Great. Okay. Now I'm going to share my screen now, and thank you, Shane, for passing it to me. So let's
Yes, we
see
can
if
see
you
your
can see
screen.
my screen. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. If everyone can see the screen, just give me a 111 into the chat room so that I know that you were there as well. Okay. Thank you. So how's everyone? I believe that going into the second half and now left with another quarter to 2024 to end, we're looking forward for 2025 to come in. And of course, in that we would want to know what investment is going to help us as well. And of course, ESG no longer just awareness. It has become something like a mandatory thing. So how we actually look into our investment with ESG, this is one of the sharing today. So as we have a smaller group today, so we can actually have more interaction and can put up questions in the chat room. Yeah. So let's moving towards the topic. So as I shared just now, because nowadays ESG is no longer just like a a talk of a myth or something. It's a paradigm shift, especially when it comes to sustainable investing. So where a lot of people were thinking that why it becomes something that is part of the criteria to be thought of it, we also find some update and also from research from Morgan Stanley that investor they have great interest in sustainable investing because I think first of all with we have to go back 4 years ago, what the happens in the pandemic, it really hurts very bad. But it also gives us a big a lesson to see that after the pandemic, when we are back to our normal activity, what happens on the climate actions. And also all this climate issue has affecting financial performance, especially when it comes to investment. And most of the time we talk about the 1.5 Celsius thing, and what this 1.5 Celsius means that actually the growth of the how to say the temperature is hurting a lot of things, especially we would say that food and food security. When we have war, we have whatever happened with the Ukraine and the Russia, it actually affected the food supply chain. So as this paradigm shift, you can see that people are looking into mostly energy supply. How are we going to get better? So those who are in a solar business, you could see a lot of solar business, they're doing very good now. And then we start to talk about EV cars. And when we talk about food, we want it to be more sustainable. And then also when we talk about housing nowadays, we want to know that whether it's a green building index. Trust me, 2 years ago, people are not talking about what is green housing index as well. And then moving on, when we buy food, and especially the youngster nowadays, where they born after 2000, they really wants to have healthier food. They want to have better choice of food. But all of these are interrelated, and it will make investing become very related, because whatever company that is running business, we cannot run away with all of this. And it is part of the supply chain, and it also part of the circular economy. So we need to understand that the paradigm shift is there and it's happening. It's no longer just like some awareness thing back in like 2-3 years ago. Okay, so let's move to the next one. So I also want to share a little bit on what is the ASEAN priority. Since that we are in the Asia ASEAN country, parts of the ASEAN country members, and the upcoming years we are hosting. Malaysia is the president for the ASEAN business, so we want to know what is their priority when it comes to sustainability. So in this part, they want, ASEAN, we want to be a globally connected marketplace, and ASEAN has become very important in a way that people are investing into it, because we are rich with raw materials that is now hardly to be found outside certain places, but we have to come together as one. So you could see that as 5 priorities that ASEAN is moving forward. First of all is the capability for market participant to come in. So as you could see, like Vietnam, Cambodia, um, Thailand, and even Malaysia ourselves as well, we see a lot of the most obvious one is the Chinese. They are coming in to our to these countries, because first of all, the standard of living to them is still affordable, and also we have a better resources to build more sustainable capacity. Yeah. Then of course, second, we talk about the growth and the ecosystem we have in ASEAN. It's still more practical. And then when it comes to environmental, we are very blessed. We are in a very nice place. We don't face a lot of like thunderstorm, typhoon, or other big things that happen. Flood, yeah, once a while, but we are still manageable. Yeah. And then we talk about the workplace, because we are full of the culture, different culture, especially Malaysia. We have so much of different empowerment to be happen when it comes to social part and the ESG. So there is more sustainable approach. And of course, lastly, the communities that we have, the impacts, the sound that we are making, the social issue we are facing, and also how aligned we are when it comes to community focus, that it turns a lot of social enterprise nowadays. So as you can see, if you look into the ACE markets or late market, there are more and more people coming in, and they are actually with a cause that they want to have solutions to the social. Yeah. So this is one of the ASEAN priority that you need to look into it when the company, whether they are prioritizing this. But of course, priority 3 has become very famous. People are talking about carbon credit. They talk about carbon emissions. Yeah. So these are the things that you could hear nowadays. Okay. So of course, there are people still not believing in ESG. It says that it's a myth, you know. It actually, when you do ESG investing, it sacrifices a lot of returns and it sacrifices a lot of things. When you talk about dollar and cents, it's always the most sensitive things that we are looking at. But in 2023, Morningstar did a very thorough, how to say, research, not only focusing in the short term, but when it comes to a long term, when how the funds performing, they realized that 63% of the sustainable funds actually outperform all the traditional peers. So next forward for the next 10 to 20 years, this will be like some sort of auditing that it could lead for better risk management. The reason why companies take it as a sacrifice of return is because in such a short-term time, they have to be transparent and then they have to be honest to themselves. When business need to be honest to themselves, it is a big step because you are disclosing what you're going to do. And it will be also in a risk if you're unable to show how sincere you are in the business. It will actually affect how consumer look at it. And nowadays, we know that integration of transparency is so important. People have more voices nowadays. They want to invest. They want to make their money worth. So they want to make sure the company able to provide long-term value. If not, it is not their main choices. So at first, people thought that it would be only for fixed income fund because fixed income is more how to say less risk compared to others. But surprisingly, if you look into the sustainable funds, or this is from Morningstar, you could see that actually equity funds is actually making one of the top two that integrating all these sustainable elements into it. And you could see how the performance they are putting in and see how is the percentage of the return. You will be surprised of it. Yeah, so these are some of the predictions, 3 to 5 year truths by the Morningstar category. And also for the past 2, 3 years, you could see that with the integrations of the sustainable elements, funds are performing better. Yeah. So the first myth was like it was a sacrificing. Actually, it is not. It's not only an investment. It is one of the long-term solutions because it makes us and the business to actually think about what we really want for the long term. Yeah. So when we talk about myth two, which is just a tree huggers. Okay. So as we know, business always comes in a different ways. We want it to be like some opportunity. We want it to be something that it could worth our investment. So maybe ESG is just one of the trends that it is moving like a tree huggers. But reality is nowadays, a lot of sustainable cases book happens. If you go to Kinokumaya, but I just visit today. So I read quite a lot of investment book. They talk about how they have been practicing sustainability, even ESG even not ESG become very famous yet because ESG been integrated into by the UN since 2004. 24 years ago, if you can, 20 years ago, back then. But sustainability is not just happen now. So it has been long time. It's just that most of the time, that the level when we talk about sustainability is always at the government level and the NGO or CSO level. So it's either the grassroots or the policymaker. But the important part is the private sector because the private sectors makes the economics move into a supply and demand chain that where we want to know what is the risk. And when business going into that field, they need to know what is the opportunities. And of course, the most important thing, people going into business is for financial success. So when we want to invest, we appeal to a lot of concerns that whether is this responsible practice, is this business doing something that is transparent, not against the rules, that will it cause the share price to spike or fall. These are all can be managed by understanding the sustainability and why the ESG elements are coming in. So the framework are so important, not only just to be there as a trend, as one of the laser eyes on audit whether the company are managing their risk openly, transparently, and being reported on a way that integrate in with integrity. Yeah. So next, when we talk about this, we talk about data as well. So of course, because it's a too new thing in the Southeast Asia, and of course, Malaysia are moving more faster than other countries, if we could say that. We are quite advanced in the Southeast Asia, and we also rank within top 10 in Asia. But a lot of people still think that whether the data is reliable, whether the data is something like cosmetic makeup or is really something that is happening. So from this Thomson Reuters, they actually put up the scores and analysis for people that commit. So just give you an example, like science, we have the SBTI, which is Science-Based Target Initiative, which is back then, 3 years ago, Malaysia has only one company commit into the long term of decreasing and decarbonizations. But today we have five invest back in 2024, and more companies are looking into that because giving the data is no longer like something very rigid to them. They think that it is good. I want you to see my data and I want you to see the effort I'm trying to do for my product and my my services. And today I visited one of the company. They're talking about they are getting sustainable raw materials. They want their clients, they want their vendors, they want their suppliers to be part of their sustainable transformations. And in order to reach that, they are willingly to invest to get their vendors and suppliers to be also part of the of the road with them so that they can move together in the path. So when a lot of challenges happen, it's not only because that a company is doing it and then it didn't show the result, because it is like a whole ecosystem. And when this happen, you need a framework to collect data and you need constant improving. It doesn't mean that you have a framework today and then there is no policies, there's no target being set. It's hard to actually hit whatever target that has been set. Set is a simple thing, but to get it done is another matter. Now, when we want to invest in a company, we want to know that whether can the material factors that's being shown by the company, are they having a solid framework that really able to put up their data so that it can show how they grow time to time? And are these data being reliable because they need some benchmarking? So it's always good to see how they score in their different pillars, especially when it comes to environmental, social, and governance, that three separate places. And you can see from where we see now, averagingly, some of the clean energy player, they may have lower ESG score. So why I want to say this, because most of the time we are focusing so much on the E, we talk about the environmental so much because it affects us directly now. We feel hot, we need aircon, we need all these places. So it actually makes us feel like, oh, we focus this first because human tends to have the push and pain factors to move on. When it comes to social and governance, do you know that actually to build one solar panel, it requires a lot of work and also more uh, unable to recycle materials to actually fix them. So is this a governance issue? Will there be any conflict? So these are questions that we need to look into the company, whether what type of policy they are doing to ensure that whatever they are doing is not completed and also not hurting others' part. So some people they say that they want to have more cheaper and sustainable raw material, but in fact they have child labor. So it actually affecting the social. Or they can hire our so-called foreign worker, but not providing them a good place to rest. So one of the company have that problems, which I believe everyone know when it was being reported. And to be honest to you, this factor is still happening in Malaysia. It's just that that incidents make a good lessons to most of the people now to actually take into calculations socials and governance issue are as important as the environmental pillar as well. Yep. So now I want to talk a little bit when we have so many complex terminology. So when it comes to ESG, I would say that a lot of people were still asking, what is the socially responsibility investing? What does it different with sustainable investing? What does it different with a green investing? So I just put up some of the wording here because you will see them most of the time the reports, and when the company are showing their performance, they will be using some of this wording. So it is also good for you to understand a little bit. So when we talk about SRI, is a socially responsible investing, usually these are focused on excluding company involved in harmful activities such as tobacco, weapons. They want it to be socially involved with humans that are really helping the humans to grow. It is more like a community-based. But when we talk about impact investing, this is a target certain social and environmental outcomes, which means that what you do helps to improve the social part and the environmental part with financial returns. Yep. Then when it comes to sustainable investing, this is more broader term, which is actually so huge that you have to integrate most of the ESG factors in your investment decision. When we talk about this, we always refer to SAR for Good, the 14 themes that you can look at. Actually, you can actually search them in the Bursa website as well. It is so easy because if not, you can revisit the one that I have done in the March. We also talk about what is the Bursa for Good. Then what is greenwashing? So a lot of people talking about greenwashing. So greenwashing means that we mislead and claim that the company environment practices and sustainable efforts. So sometimes people are putting advertisement. Okay, if you could remember, long time ago we complained about a certain company, their burgers don't look like what it happens in the advertisement. Yeah, so these are some misleading claims. As the same part for greenwashing, the difference is when we talk about environmental practices and also some sustainability efforts that they have put in, they don't have the real data or the real event to support their claims. And they may manipulated their data in that case. So that's why more policy now is looking into greenwashing. Of course, there are new terms like talking about blue washing as well, but we will not go until that part. We're still very focused on talking about greenwashing because a lot of people are aiming too much on carbon credit, and they may or may not hit the certain criteria, and they still claim they have done that. Yeah. So next one is maturity in the factor the company financial performs in the long-term value. So example I'm giving you, like if the company have declared that they are using so-called diesel in their transportation. So diesel, as we know, for the government, they have relief and do not put on any subsidies anymore. So the price is fluctuating. So if they declare that they did not increase the usage of the diesel, they may have to show their usage versus the pricing. And then it should be reflect into their financial performance. So for example, back then, before the subsidy was cut out, it was being this fixed cost with how many liter. And then with the subsidy is off, we would see that in numbers of amount that they paid, it will be increased, but the usage is low or is the same as before. but it should be reflected in the financial performance together with the sustainable reporting that shows they have no increase of the CO2 when it comes to the fuel, but just because of the pricing of increase, there will be some disclosure and so-called explanation will be put in there. So it's a very interrelated thing because these are the materiality. We need to know that whether the company claiming that they did not increase the usage, but how come the financial performance shows that they have more expense, and how could it be related? So vice versa, like if the pricing go down, the usage should be remain, then the expense should be low. So this is the materiality. Now, when we talk about double materiality, okay, then this part is a little bit confusing if we not familiar enough. So these are considering impact for the ESG factors on the company and also the impact of the company on ESG factors, which means that this thing, if you don't have this material, you couldn't run the company. And this material will also affect your company performance. And when it comes to this, it will be a double materiality. So you will see that it declared in the sustainability sustainability reporting. And in the same time, you could see that they actually put into other considerations when it comes to the social part. So this will be like double materiality, means that it affects both, which is affect the company itself as ESG factors and also the company ESG factors. So double materiality is something that at this point, most of the ACE market, they are still not very mature in it, but you can look into some company like Tanaga. They have double materiality. So this is something that you could look into their sustainability reporting, which they can show you how the combustion happened and all this, how they put the double materiality. So later on, we will show a little bit of the case studies. Yeah. So these are part of the complex terminology that you will see, you'll hear, listen most of the time, which able to be helpful for you. Yeah. Okay. So now we are going into the second part. When we talk about the second part is the metrics and the frameworks. I don't tend to make it very complicated. Let's make it more simple so that if you have any questions, you can raise it up later on. Yeah. So let's introduce a little bit of the key indicators when it comes to E, S, and G. So I put ISO as part of it so it's easier for you to understand. So first of all, like I say, a lot of people focusing on carbon emission, which is on scope 1, 2, and 3. So what is scope 1? Scope 1 is how they run within their capacity. Second is whatever energy they purchase, and the third one is others that affecting them. So if you could see, I actually put it out in the ISO, which type of ISO you can actually go through it, just Google and find it. So in also an environmental, we talk about energy consumptions, what is the efficiency, how is the water usage, whether any conservations has been done, whether they do any waste management and recycling, does they taking care whatever they do will hurt the biodiversity or ecosystem, which means that they pour the waste water out just directly to the drain, or whether they have any rainwater harvesting for especially when it's come to this so-called developing, and when those especially who are property developers, how they install sustainability products into their buildings, such as solar, such as also green materials. These are things that part of the indicators will help you on that. Yeah, so when it comes to E, there's so many ways. We have greenhouse gas protocol, we have ISO, we even have SBTI, all this to be, determine whatever that you are going to affect the environmental part. Yeah. Then Social. Okay. Social part is a part that I really love it because it's a part that it talks about human, it talks about humanity, it talks about how company business connect with people. And it is also one of the key reasons that people will have unsatisfaction feelings. And that is the things that when we, as a business or as an investor, when we want to deal with it, we need to see how the policy that could help um, the employees, because they are the assets to move the company, to move the business. So we talk about employee health and safety. In 1st of June, that the law has places in every company that have more than 5 employees, they are required to have a occupational health and safety coordinator. So it's to ensure that whatever they are doing is according to the safety guidelines and make sure that the employee welfare being taken on. So this is one of the biggest improvement from the point of view in social. However, we are still a lot of companies still in the dark. Actually, fine. But of course, public listed, they have this health and safety department, but are they doing the job properly? So will they be disclosing their high rate as well? Which means that what is high rate is a way that how they disclose their risk when it comes to the employee. Will the employee get accidents if they perform certain things? Yeah. So these are part of becoming something more and more important. Yeah. Then of course, as the world change nowadays, we talk about diversity, we talk about inclusions, not only gender, race, ethnicity. We talk about how we accept a person when they are different from us or anything. It can be OKU, it can be societies that they may be blind or deaf. So these are part of a diversity and inclusion that nowadays people are looking into it. And when we talk about inclusions, this is a very strong word. We always say that we include, but we only look into the races. We include, there is a lot of things. So recently I have a round table, we talk about gender budget group. They talk about like autism. They talk about how empowerment we are to men. So most of the time we always talk about women. I understand that. But how about men? So when we talk about men, is it paternity leave? Because we always know that maternity leave is long. And what about the paternity leave? And also, what's the rights for the men, not only the women? So inclusion is a very huge thing when we talk about it. It's not just solely what we see nowadays. Yeah. And of course, we talk about labor practice, we talk about human rights, and I think some of the joke that you could see on the social media, we're talking about nowadays, Gen Gen Z or Gen Alphas, they are talking about how they feel more about themselves. But in fact, if you look to it, they're actually talking about what basic human rights. Yet we can frame it better if we could put into the practice, and also how we can make a person, I mean, like the employee, they're our assets, and also our stakeholder around us, whether they could see the differences that this company is doing to ensure talent stays. Yeah. Then of course, community engagement is very important. When back then, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when we talk about CSR, it's more about donation of money. So of course, it is still happening now. Then it become like sponsorships. But nowadays, people are not looking only just donation because of the sake of donate. It could be turned out like a bribe or corruptions. So it is good to see how they engage with the community, not only just with money. So I can give you some examples that in one of the biggest a world cleanup day that I organized and worked together with the University Science Malaysia, we actually have Dell, Intel, uh Western Digital, all these company comes in because they were along the shore and they would want to do good to the community that they are being involved and also the community along there. So when we want to do this World Cleanup Day, it's not just a beach cleaning. We want to clean whatever things that around the area by all these factories. So what they do, they also sponsors for certain of the events to run. I mean, it's like the expense, but in the same time, they want to engage and understand more about the community engagement. So they even volunteer themselves as they sponsors their employees into the project itself. For example, um, all the employees comes in to work together in the project for 5 or 6 hours on the day itself. This is also part of how we engage, how the business engage with the community and how they can get the feedback from the social impact. When they are on the ground, they're able to talk to the community. They want to know what they could do better as a business and how it could provide a better environmental. Yeah. So next one, we talk about customer satisfactions and data privacy. As we have social media nowadays, everyone is connected to social media. I still have friends that really don't connect to Facebook at all, but they have Instagram, which I tell them is just come back to fair and square because the algorithm is gonna track you down. Unless today you're not in data, you're just using a Nokia 3310. So our data is now everywhere in every part of the world. Uh, Especially if we're engaging to cloud services, like for now, we're using Zoom, we're streaming to YouTube. These are all in the clouds. And the moment you sign in, your data being captured, your location, your phone number, your email address, even now, if you on your video, then it will be part of capturing your facial expression as well. So these are all our data now today, being leaked easily compared to maybe 20 years ago, how you feel informed with the hard copy. Especially when you fill up in the e-form, you always have the risk of being leakage. So WhatsApp, Gmail, every of the social media has the leakage before. So this is not something new anymore with this current century and also current decades. And it will be more and more happening in the future. So how businesses taking care of our privacy is very important. I still remember that back then, 10 years ago, a lot of banks are exchanging their data within their the salesperson. And then they start calling us, do you want to get loan? Do you want to get credit card? These are really annoying things because their privacy wasn't being a big issue back then. So this is something not going to be very new and it's going to be more and more. If you started to purchase car that have satellite, which most of the car having now, actually where you go, where you located can be easily traced with the satellite as well. So with convenience that we pay, we're actually also giving out things that we did not realize it was so important to us. Yeah. So a company, how they're taking care the customer data is also one of the crucial part. Of course, satisfactions is always there. We used to say customer is always right, and now customer has to be reasonable, but in a way they have to satisfy. So this is not only apply in service line anymore or any and they are in everywhere and every part of it because choices become more and more and businesses are being more competitive. There will be more and more merger you could see happening because this is part of the competitions. And if the company or the business able to fulfill the satisfactions with good data privacy being taken care of, these are also one of the value to be added when it comes to um reputations comes to brand. Okay, so last time we talked about brand like because they make us feel elegant or we feel premium using it. But also nowadays, people are looking, am I safe using your product, your services? So this will actually affect the sales or the financial performance of the company. Yeah. So took a long time to talk about social. I saw a questions that is what is the definition of gender? So this is a very good question because a lot of people will not ask this question. Oh, what does gender means? You know, so when we comes to normal filling up of questions, we always talk about gender. Is like you're female or male, or whether it is just type of to differentiate. But now gender is no longer just about men or humans, men or women. We talk about the differences of the characters. How does it really characters the men or women in socially, how they construct, how their behavior, how their role to be associated, especially when it comes to in the company, and how we actually taking care of all this. So when we fight for human rights, when we fight for women rights as well, what about the men? These are also something that we are trying to look into it. When we come to balancing, it's not just about women, it's also about men. That's what gender means. Yeah. Okay. So next, please. Future-proofing social strategies. Whose strategies? Okay, I don't understand the question. Maybe you rephrase the question again. I'll come back to you. So let's move on to the next one. So when we talk about social and then we come to governance, okay, this is one of the most important part. When we talk about ESG, governance always comes first because if we don't have the policies or rules making or regulations, it is hard for us to how to measure. So if let's say we say zero corruptions, we must have anti-corruption or briberies act or policy. So we must have something that we could do the measurement. So every time when we talk about ESG, I always say the G will have to come first. The governance have to come first because a lot of steps need to take. It's not just about how passionate we are. It's about what we really need to do to integrate things into it so that things could be moved on. So when we governance, board independence and diversity, important, like what Brusa has stated, 30% female directors, and also executive compensations and transparency. So this happened to some of the companies that the compensation was not being very transparent. This happens most of the time we could see, and then you can see a lot of Ponzi schemes back then when it comes to the financial and investment sectors. So these are the things that a lot of declarations has to be made, disclosures have to make, so that it make the how to say the investor will be have more confidence in it. So this is one of the good part that when we read a report, we should actually look into it as well. So anti-corruption policies and practices, this is now become very normal. Yeah, and also risk management and oversight. Before COVID, most of the risk management were all inside the financial sectors, mostly talk about dollars and cents, how you mitigate it with the financial concept. Nowadays, it's not just about financial concepts, it's about what the environment, what the social, what other people think about it, and how we keep the brand to be visual as one of the healthy brand that we could have more confidence in it. So risk management has become more in a wider positions that it looks into how human behavior is. And of course, the shareholder rights and the engagement. So these are some of the if you could see on the slides, it shows that some of the scorings, assessment, why people are going into this and why businesses are going into it, why they want to do ESG health check, why they want to check, why they want to monitor. because they want to make sure whatever they produce is what same with what they claim. And of course, this rating will give us a lot of information about the company, which part they're doing well, which part they're not, and how they could improve in a way that they can make things better. Yeah. So um, for that, these are the indicators, and let's go on with some rating system that you could find online actually. So which one is the best? I will not say the best because it is very different from each company, but I'm just showing you these are those very famous one, and you could see uh M&A is happening. So who they buy, how what kind of proxy advisor they are, and why they are doing it. Yeah, these are in the market, and especially if you could see Bloomberg and MSCI are really happening there, and sustain analytics is also becoming more and more important nowadays because they look into different things, and S&P global ratings as well. Yeah, in Malaysia we use RAM rating. Yeah. So some of the Bursa specific ESG disclosure requirement, which will help you to understand more about the business, how they works, how they can perform better. You can actually look into the sustainability reporting guide. So the latest guide was by September 2022. It's a third edition. You can look into it. It's really comprehensive. And also, what is the mandatory disclosure? They have also listed out what type of material ESG factors, what is their statement has to be done, what is their policies. So they have the 9 indicators and 11 indicators. And also from 2023 onwards, the updated changes, which is the main board listed company, they need to also put their sustainability reporting requirement with TCFD, which means that how the climate will affect their non-financial disclosure recommendations as well. So these are already in the Bursa's website. So when we look at it, we can see how the company disclosed themselves and how it related back to financial performance. Yeah. So next one. Now, of course, there are many good things about ESG data, but I don't deny that we still have challenges along the way. So different rating providers, as we shared just now, they have different methodology. So it may be have different scoring. At this point of view, in the world, we do not have a standardized um, framework yet. So comparison will be quite challenging. And sometimes we need to understand it is still new, especially in our country. So sometimes you look at their data, there will be slightly some gaps and inconsistency. And of course, some people they are forced to do by the regulations, there will be some greenwashing risk. Yeah. So we we love to see good things of the companies, but in the same time, we must always also understand there are still limitations and challenges happening now because it is I would not say that it's a very new thing, but it's just going into practical. So there are time for the businesses to make changes, but investor can act as one of the eye catching on what they are doing. It is a good two ways of communications. Yeah. So these are types and differences between the ESG rating agencies, since that we say there's some differences. So as I want to show some like MSCI, this one is a quite a famous one. So they have all the scoring for E and S and G, but they do not have any questionnaire. They just need you to fill up, and then your ESG indexes is through screening, integration, and targets. You hit it, then you get it. But let's see about how about S&P global ratings. Then this is a very different because you need to go through the assessment. Of course, still they have the E and S and G, but they go through the Dow Jones Sustainability Indexes. They have multiple indexes. They are in the emerging markets. They need you to answer a lot of questions there to make sure your scoring is more concrete. Yeah. So the rest is like Bloomberg, Equities. So I want you to see the differences because they are looking into different types. So at this point, uh, the, even the globe, they don't have standards, but we just need to know which rating agency they are using and what is the differences. Yeah. So some have questionnaire, some don't have. So these are the things that I would really want to share with all of you. Yeah. Now, this is the Bursa for Good that which is widely used in Malaysia, Bursa Bursa main board company. And also, I want you to, sorry, I want you to have a look at how they put the 3 pillars with 14 teams. So this is how they illustrate the range of the factors to be considered in the ESG assessment. Example, when you talk about environmental, you talk about social, you talk about governance, they will tell you what is the score and what is the exposure. So if you look at the 3 pillars, they tell you very clearly how the scoring and how the exposure. But what the 14 themes is like for environmental, you talk about biodiversity, pollutions, resources, water security. Then when you talk about social, yeah, customer responsibility is also part of it. Health and safety is always there, labor standards, supply chain. And look at governance, we cannot always run away because this there. What is the anti-corruption? What is the corporate governance? What are the tax transparency? So in there, to make this happen, 300 over indicators in the model of the teams that are containing larger indicators that the company will have to fulfill. So at least you know when they declare something, where they declare from. So it's from these 3 pillars for teams. Of course, the indicators let the company do it themselves. But you look in the bigger picture, these 14 teams can tell you a lot of things about the company performance and how they run the event as well. Yeah. And how they integrate it. Yeah. Okay. Now, next. So since that we talked about so much of the ratings, let's come back to the Malaysian landscape because it is very crucial. We are from Malaysia. We want to know how we perform as well. Yeah. So Malaysia commitment. In 2021, actually, we have this 12 Malaysia plan, which is on the developed dimensions that we want to empower 4 things. First, economic empowerment. Second, environmental sustainability. Third, social re-engineering. And fourth, governments and policy tools. So I saw the question saying us that what is a social re-engineering? So if you could see from here, it is enhancing social capital, inclusivity, and social cohesion, which means that they want the social to be part of the shared prosperity when it comes to the policy tools. Okay, so there will be questions like people asking. So when we talk about social re-engineering, so what can we do or what companies, so these are always the question being asked. So it's like what is a social and re-engineering? It sounds so atas or sounds so different from other, but how are we going to practice it? Okay, so how company actually do this social re-engineering? It is something that it is very good to how to say to discuss about. But a lot of time, I have to be honest to you, some company don't even know how to do it. It's actually social re-engineering is we must particularly know that how we are going to realign with our employee, how they access sensitive data, yeah, how they are taking care of this. So when targeted example targeted data is sensitive, when we pass on, will we have the right people to engage on it and to make sure the data being protected? So it comes back to the data privacy. Because sometimes data for the company, they want to do this, but did they provide the training so that they can make the social people, which means the people in, especially employee in their how to say company to actually feel the same culture as well. Sometimes a lot of people say that, oh, it's fine, it's just simple. But actually, a few things that you could do to help on it, which is something called educations, uh, incidents response plan. You must do some regular security audits. These are the things that we could help. If the company is doing, help to make sure that when even you have inclusivity, you must make sure that whatever you are preaching for, you do it in a way you audit yourself as well. Yeah. So in the 12 Malaysia plan, you actually align with whatever shared prosperity initiative. So I want you to look into the operationalizing on the environmental part. Why I want to talk about environmental part? Because it is actually affecting a lot of the economic empowerment and also how social react. Disaster risk management. So a lot of times we think that maybe rain, we just not flood, we don't need to go to work, and then that's it. But it's a business loss. And will this affect the economic? Answer is yes. And economic affected, it will be affected the social, which means that you have some cut in the employment. So today, if you read the news, you could understand that Dell is cutting people. So it's like making big, huge. This is going to be a big social problem. So green tech, we talk about how we manage the green and blue economy, renewable energy, how we integrate water resources. Malaysia is one of the country that we actually waste a lot of clean waters. How I say so? I believe that all of you only have one water taps into your, the one water tap into your house because you only pay one water bill. So it means that the water you flush from your toilet bowls are as clean as the one that you are using to wash your, plates and maybe brushing your teeth. So this is something that we can relook into it as well. Of course, circular economy, how we reducing waste and create value from waste. This is so important because raw material is going to get lesser and lesser. Yeah. So I want to share a little bit more. You could see Malaysia commitment on net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. So they focus on the 3P, which is profit, planet, and people. And this has been included in the BRUSA, matters, sustainability matters as well, which how company perform, which the 11 indicators. So you could look into this as well. And of course, not many people know, but of course the campaign become very famous now is the roadmap towards zero single-use plastics. I must say that from where I am, my hometown, Penang did a very good job. We used to have flood every time because the plastic usage in our state alone sometimes is almost one third of the countries. But after we implement that no plastic days for 7 days a week, unless you find another days in the week, we could see increased in a lot of things, greener, cleaner, and also less natural disasters that caused by all this waste. And it took us 10 years. It's not immediate effect. It took us 10 years. So this roadmap is very down to earth, but it very much on how we practice it. Like myself, I have get used to use recycle bag, so it becomes a habit. Even when I relocate to Kuala Lumpur, it actually make me realize that I really love the habit that I have. Yeah. And also, I want to share that what Institutional Investor Council Malaysia, they also share some principle of codes, and this was happened in 2022. They want to aim for, a better advocacy. So they have 7 principles set up, and you look at principle 5, incorporating sustainability consideration. So it is happening everywhere, and they want to consider investment in the ESG factors because if you look at the principle, they want to publish and they want to cooperate with sustainable matters and to make sure investors are giving being being protected in a way that they get a very clear and transparent data. So if you could see the principle to monitoring investee companies, engaging investee companies, ESG become an ecosystem and also a framework for them to communicate. Yeah. And of course, if you have investor overseas, they will request more than whatever Bursa requires. So Bursa requirement is very minimal and it's achievable if we have a proper plan. Then, of course, what Malaysian Green Technology and Climate Change Center, MGTC, with talking about how to drive green technology adaptations. And it opens to help not only SME, listed companies. So you could actually read from whatever company that you invested, whether they are working towards the transitions of low carbon or climate resilient. But the most important thing, are they going into net zero together with the national program of net zero by 2050? So these are things that you can look into how companies work towards that effort. Yeah. And of course, we want to see how companies with strong, ESG integration, how they perform. So I'm just giving you some examples. You could see that Maybank, they talk about sustainable finance mobilized. Compared to 2021, they have 7 billion improvement on that. And you could see how many household lives they have improved. In a way, also, you look at the carbon neutral positions, they reduced 41% of their scope 1 and 2, which is against their 2019 baseline. And their annual target is to reduce 40%. So they reduce 40% every time compare. So this is their target to hit. And of course, sustainability hours achieved, which also promoting that whatever they do, whether it hit the sustainability. So you see, you can put they can share, but of course, maturity. Remember, just now we talked about maturity. Whatever they share here, there should be a reference by the end of the page. You could actually check on it. They can show you some of the activities, how they run it, and it is good for you to look at it. And let's look at the commitment tree, achieving a carbon neutral position for our own emission by 2030 and net zero carbon equivalent position by 2050, which means that they're working towards the government roadmap, the energy transition roadmap. So let's monitor how they do it. You see their intention, they shared. So what you need to do is just monitor them, see how they do it, and what they want to do in the next 5 to 10 years. What is their policies? Yeah, and look at the commitment for achieving 1 million hours per annum on sustainability and delivering 1,000 significant UNSDG related outcome by 2020. So it's just next year. So next year we all can wait for the Maybank reports when they come up and share about 2025, which is we'll see them in 2026 as well. Yeah. Samdabi. So Samdabi is one of them there because they've been criticized in a lot of negative way, but how they do their commitment from the E and S and G. Just want to see on the major on this one in the second part of the E, which they talk about achieve 2.99 total recordable injury frequency rate, because they are part of the companies or business nature that they involve very heavily in blue collar workers. And also you look at how they influence in the training, 4,320,000 total hours of training per year. That is amazing. And of course, how they engage with their partnerships. So these are the things that would help you to understand what they are doing, and you just need to go back to their maturity, which is, I believe they will put in at the back of the page. This is just summary to show you and to demonstrate how they put their commitment into the sustainability. And that will be part of showing how they are also being transparent and open. Yeah. So since we have some case study, let's go some active stewardship, which is you as investor, what you should be actively looking at. So as a shareholders, you have the right and responsibility to influence company decisions. So I believe you receive AGM notices. You will receive that. You could actually attend and monitor how companies engage in this issue rather just simply buying and selling. You can play a part as well. And when you are part in the shareholder engagements, the process of communication, how you interact between the others investors in the company, this can take from informal dialogue to formal shareholder resolutions. So you also play a part in this, yeah. And of course, I would say that when you engage, how it will be more on dialogue, can be a direct communication with the company management or board members to discuss the concerns, ask questions, request for improvement if you see they need to. Of course, you exercise your voting rights, support and oppose resolutions. This can be done, and with such that you can see more policy being made because you are part of the policy maker if you're the investor. And of course, the most important thing is shareholder resolutions. This formal proposal, they have to vote in the shareholder meetings. So it is for the betterment of ESG actions of disclosure. You can also do that because this is your right as an investor. Yeah. And so if you are part of the proxy in promoting these practices, you can actually have a lot of influences, especially when it comes to corporate behavior, signal your priority to them, what kind of sustainability practice they should be adopting. Yeah. Holding some management accountability. Sometimes just ask them, voice your concerns. If there is any inadequate, can be proposed in a way how for improvement. I always believe that criticize will not bring good outcome, but if we could, do it as a sharing and discussions, it's always good. That's why nowadays a lot of companies have roundtables to collect informations. So when investors collaborate and vote together, you also can have greater impact when it comes to company decision and driving the positive ESG change. So when there's a roundtable from the company that you invested, please do attend and understand that your voice matters as well. Yeah. So just give you some case study on how minority shareholder push the change in certain company. So just give you the TMB, they are moving towards cleaner energy. So what happened that in 2021, because we have already shared what you as an active owner what you should do, but we also share how it was done before. It is a real case. So in 2021, there's a minority shareholder led by the EPF and KWAP. They filed a shareholder resolutions calling on TMB Malaysia to set more ambitious targets. So as we know, we are still burning coal. So they are actually putting these regulations to ask them to have more renewable energy generations. So it is said that TMB is far behind on this renewable energy stuff. So it was some concerns from the minority shareholders, so they do this. And with the outcome, the resolutions, it did not pass actually. Yeah, but it have also significant support from other shareholders. And so they pressure TMB to improve first thing, their policies. Second, also how their mitigation of from coal, which is these how to say energies into a more renewable state. And also they want them to improve how they are hurting the environment. So following with all this engagement, they have so many rounds of roundtables. It just go everywhere. Then TMB, they announced a revised sustainability pathway. So first, they commit in net zero emission. You can read from their report in 2023. And also, they want to increase their renewable energy capacity, which is now they are sourcing and looking forward with a lot of renewable energy collaborations as well. So even though the resolution did not pass, but because it's so important when they fall in, so it makes a very big difference. So what is the impact? this campaign actually show that minority shareholders is also important because you are pushing for greater corporate actions. And if they make these changes, it will actually help the company to grow and also improve in their financial performance. So it becomes like a very good constructive dialogue between the investor and the company on the ESG issue. So this is one of the example from the TMB. Now, the next example is with the Petronas. Yeah. So institutional investor, they engage with the Petronas related to climate matters. So also want to share with you that in 2022, there's a group of institutional investor. They also included the Climate Action 100 Plus initiative. You can Google this one. This one is very interesting. They want their climate-related risk and transition strategy being more ambitious for emission reduction. As you know, oil and gas will produce more emissions, and they want them to look into how to increase the investment in their renewable energy. So, of course, Petronas now has changed their policy, not only committing in net zero emission, but also they have invested heavily in renewable energy, and also they commit to give more transparency when it comes to climate-related risks and opportunities. So if you could see, actually, Petronas has been promoting a lot of this. 3 weeks ago, they have what they call this exhibitions in Surya KLCC. They talk about how they are going to transit in the net zero carbon emissions, and what they are doing now, how they invest into renewable energy. And with this engagement, it actually helped them to actually get more collective actions. They want to know that what investor cares about and how this investor actually influence the corporate behavior. And when you influence the corporate behavior, it move forward to a better transparency, more transparent and better policies that could help to improve the financial performance. Yeah. So these are very two high profile case study that you could read on. So that's end for my part. Back to you, Shane.
Thank you so much, Jolene, for sharing with us about ESG investing towards sustainable profits. So if any questions are asked our speaker today, please write them at the Q&A box. We will address them accordingly. Okay, write your question at the Q&A box. I see Baki Bila asked a question, who initiated this call? Maybe you can write your question in full sentences so we are able to understand your question. All right, I'll write a question in the Q&A box here. Because in chat, right, I may overlook it because there are so many messages coming in. So the first question is, are publicly listed companies in Bursa Malaysia required to disclose their ESG practices?
Okay, so first question, yeah, I will not say that this is ESG disclosure. They call it sustainable disclosure, sustainability guide. So they have 11 indicators that they need to disclose, which is you can find in the Bursa's website. So they have to disclose the 11 and how they actually move on. So for 2024, all main listed company, they have to, and then they have to also they are using the mostly of the GRI, and also they need to share their TCFD plans by this year as well. So they are going to disclose next year. While for the ACE market, it's going to happen in 2025, which means that you expected to see their disclosures and information in 2026. Yeah.
Thanks, Jolene. So additionally, how would prioritizing ESG consideration over profits within Malaysia's financial sector contribute to the country's advancement and support the integration of Malaysia's sustainable agenda and Madani economy initiatives?
This is a very sensitive question, but It's a good question actually, because when you related to national agenda, I try to make it more how to say neutralized. So when you have ESG considerations, you could see more transparency. You will help in the economic growth. So financial institution can drive more long-term economic growth and reduce the risk associated with the environmental and the social challenges, because environmental and social challenges has been always there. It's not like happening only this decade, then suddenly become a big issue. No, it's always there, even 1,000 years ago. Then of course, we talk about risk management, because as an investor, you want to know that when you put in the money, whether your financial value long term will be there. So if they have these ESG considerations when it comes to risk management, they know how to help mitigate the financial risk associated, especially when it comes to environment and social issues. If some of you here are bosses, you will understand that once you have a good talent leave, you will be suffering. And also, if you're a manager or you are sort of like how to say unit leaders, you will understand that talent is not easy. This is one part of the social issue as well. Then, of course, when we want to align with national agendas, we always look into not just inclusive. We want to talk about prosperities of society. So in Madani, they talk about these prosperities of society. That is the reason part of it is already related to social issue. When we talk about ESG, it's just not acronyms that happens only on the private sectors. It's actually all the problems has been existed. It's just that when we have framework, we can let the private sector to take more initiative to make certain move. Because if we only follow whatever the government rulings and the grassroots, it's really hard to move, because private sector play a very big role on that. So if you study from the Madani, especially the 2024 budget, it share about when company are really moving towards of tree plantings approved by the Ministry of Forest, they get tax exempted. And if company, even SME, you practice e-invoicings, which help to reduce the environmental issue, you also can get tax deduction. And if you practice whatever ESG standards being approved by the ministry, then you will also get tax deduction. So these are some alignment that has been done. And of course, I'm looking forward for the upcoming 2020. Yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Thanks, Jolene. Can you tell me more about CBAN and how it will affect Malaysian companies?
How CBAM will
Affect Malaysian companies?
Ah, this is a very good question. Malaysia has more than 1.55 trillions of export in 2022. Just imagine about that. So what is carbon border adjustment mechanism, which is CBAM? We're talking about policy implementing by the European Union. So actually they impose a carbon tariff on imports from countries with a weaker policy on climate. So if let's say, for example, we are not really good in our policies, we may face additional costs. So how it would potentially affect us, let's be more realistic. Of course, if we are not prepared, we are not offsetting whatever the additional CBAM requirement, this could be more higher export costs to us. And when you have higher export costs, it will be reducing your profit margin. And also, if CBAM is not being practiced by the company, then you will actually face some competitive disadvantage, because they will choose company that practice and align with CBAM. That's the reason now a lot of companies, they run into CBAM, because it's going to implement on the 1st of January 2026. But of course, there's still potential strategies for you to do it. I mean, we know what is affecting. What we can do is, first of all, we need to understand how we are going to do carbon reduction efforts in our businesses, and also how we're going to switch from, example, more sustainable supply chain, what kind of renewable energy we need to use, And also how are we going to explore the destinations by minimizing the impact of the carbon. So these are the things that we could really do and help us to, face the current matter, because CRAM is like it's not just on one matter, it's like several matter, but now it's only started with 6 different industry, so it will be more to come. By right, it will be started by this year, but because some of the lobby advocacy been saying that Asia still need times to get ready, so they push forward to 2026. Yeah. Patient.
Right, thanks, Jolene. So the next question is by Offman. So what are your advice for small and medium companies that want to start practicing ESG?
Yeah, in this part, actually, for small, medium enterprise, if you have clients from the how to say public listed company, or there's requirement, then there's very much you can also refer to Bursa requirement. But there is another one is you can look into is SEDG. SEDG. This is one of the from the capital market that help you to understand why Bursa have this kind of requirement. And if you want to start, first of all, you need to have a team of people. You don't need a lot. Your HR must be there, your finance must be there. They are both very important people. And then you can download the SEDG for free in the website, get the information, and you could start answering those questions, and you will realize that what you're lack of. And then there's where you may need to look for training to improve, or consultancy. So always start with whatever the government have stated, and it would be very helpful for you to answer those questions and know what you're lack of. So that is a minimum cost to start, which is start downloading it first. And then when you need some consultancy and training, you can look for them so that it could be helpful. They come when you want to implement it like a policy. Yeah.
Thanks, Jolene.
Mm.
The next question is, what are some common challenges or pitfalls investors face when trying to incorporate ESG criteria into their portfolios?
What are the, sorry?
Some common challenges or pitfalls investors face when trying to incorporate ESG criteria into their portfolios.
Okay. Usually this kind of thing, I would say the the first one will be costing lah. Costing is always the biggest challenges, and also they are looking in resources constraints, so financial limitations, lack of expertise, because it's new for Malaysia, but it is not new for outside, but it's just new. And then data collection, that is the most heavy part, because you need to accurately and reliable for the ESG data that you collect when you declare. And currently, the biggest problem is the standardizations of the reporting framework. But in Malaysia, if you follow Bursa, we have Bursa Sustainability Guide. So for the SME, you have SEDG. For those in manufacturing, import, export, you have IESG. So Malaysia is still good. And the one that people always forgotten is how you identify your stakeholders, who are they, how you balance their interests, and lastly, how you put short term and long term in your business plan. And to balance this up, how you can achieve your financial performance objective, but in the same time, you're also not giving up sustainability. So usually it will be the challenges will be the regulations come in, and it's too complexity, then it will cause whatever what I said just now. Yeah.
Right, thanks, Jolene.
Mm.
So what trends do you see emerging in ESG investing? And how should investors prepare for this development in this field?
So this is a two question. What is the trend in ESG investing, and how
Mm.
investor prepare it? Am I right?
Yep.
Okay. When we talk about trend, it is like I shared just now. There are so many things that the regulations focus. If you hear about it, we talk about CBAM, we talk about Bursa Sustainability Development Guide, Sustainability Reporting Guide, we talk about SEDG. These are all regulations, and regulators are becoming more and more focused. And when these being introduced more stricter regulations for government, the trend moving will be investor would want to know that whether the regulations being comply by the company, because they want to put their interests first. And especially retail investor, you're becoming more aware and you want to have more investment, sustainable investment options, so that when the integrations happen in the portfolio, this will help you to actually see more transparently into your investment. So the trends are moving in there, and then it will help in a lot of ways. Technology advancement will comes in. Nowadays, all these main board and the ACE market, they have to report in the sustainable in the Bursa sustainability how to say website, because people are monitoring them. They want to see that. So the trend will be moving into more transparency. And for investor, you need to prepare yourself how to assess them. Like I said just now, you're like an auditors. You need to assess them. You need to have due diligence. And then when you engage with them, you want to stay informed with what the current up-to-date actions being taken to move forward together with the trends. You play a very important role when it comes to due diligence, and especially assess them in whatever they declare.
All right. Thanks, Jolene. So any more questions from the floor? Okay, looks like I no more questions from the floor at the moment. So with that, I would like to conclude the session. So thank you everybody for tuning into this session. So thank you so much, Jolene, for spending your time here. So this is Jolene Chai, who is the co-founder of Global Hemisphere Group Senior Part. Thank you so much, Jolene.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Good night.